All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, and of course, we just finished with our week 6 of the NFL. So what comes after 6? It's 4 8 91 15 and then 7. So we're on week 7. Pretty good number. We're getting through the season at a really quick rate here, almost halfway through, which is a bit of a bummer. But hey, we're enjoying the season. We're having a fun season. It's been kind of a surprising season. A lot of shock wins, a lot of unpredictability in the NFL right now, because one week a team will look great, then they'll get thrashed the next week. We did pretty good last week. We went 9-6. We kind of missed on all the prime times. Otherwise, we could have went like 12-3. That happens, sometimes you're not picking good, and I have not been picking good the majority of the year. So hopefully we do a little bit better this week. But before we jump into everything, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Both those things really do help out the channel. But the most important thing is to make sure you leave your comments with your picks down below, how you're doing overall, how you did last week, record wise, overall record, what your picks are this week, what you think of the video, just your general thoughts on anything. All that stuff is super appreciated, and I try to comment back as soon as I can. Sometimes I might be a little slow or miss some, but I'm pretty good about most of them. All right. But yeah, so let's jump into our week 7 NFL pick'em. Here's our pick'em record. One sec. We do it raw, baby, no editing. All right. So that's our overall pick'em record. We're 58, 34, and 1, which isn't bad, which isn't great. Hopefully we improve on the 6 losses that we've been getting. It hasn't been a very good run, but hopefully we improve. Hopefully we start picking a little bit better here as things go along. All we can do is hope as the things materialize. As we go into our bye weeks, we have the Bills and Ravens off this week. So if you're a fan of one of these teams, you don't have to watch the Bills slide further down the AFC East, because the Patriots are back on top, boys. That's right. We're number 1 in the AFC East, one of the top teams in the AFC. Yeah, things are looking up if you're a Patriots fan. Sucks to be a Bills fan. And the Ravens are off too, so much needed week off. All right, Thursday Night Football, we have ourselves a game. The Steelers take on the Bengals. Steelers are 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 42.5. Steelers coming off a win versus the Browns. Bengals coming off a loss versus the Packers. I'm guessing the Steelers defense will completely shut down the Bengals offense. And then we'll probably see the Bengals defense give up some points to Aaron Rodgers and company. I don't imagine this being a very close game, a very fun game to watch. The only thing that probably keeps it close is the fact that it's a Thursday night game on the road for the Steelers, which never really goes in favor of, the team that's on the road, right? Thursday night tends to favor the home team on a super short week. So I'm guessing the Steelers win, but the Bengals may keep it weirdly close-ish. Yeah, something like this. 1 o'clock games, we have our London game. The Los Angeles Rams take on the home team London Jaguars. Rams are favored by 3 with an over-under of 44.5. Rams coming off a tight win over the Ravens, 17-3, and the Jaguars are coming off a loss, 20-12. I know the Jaguars had an ugly loss, but apparently the Seahawks under McDonald never lose on the road, and I'm a little confused as to what happened to the Rams offense once they lost Puka, because it just kind of disappeared. This is one of the first times I've seen the Ravens not give up 30 points all year. So it's kind of a little surprising when you see that. It's like them and the Browns. So it's all right, what's going on with the Rams offense without Puka? Is that something you got to pay attention to? I know the Jaguars won't have Lloyd for this game, but the Jaguars do have a really solid defense overall. They held a very good Seahawks offense that's been rather explosive to just 20 points. And almost, they kept themselves in despite their offense being off. And again, I do think that the Jaguars have a weird home advantage when they play in London or in England, because they've been there so much. They seem to like the Jaguars. So the Jaguars may have a slight home advantage here. I know the Rams are favored by 3 with an over-under of 44.5. All the lines are included from FanDuel, by the way. They don't determine who I pick. It's just, who I happen to see as the team I like. Should the Rams be able to win this game? Sure, but they're dealing with some weird injuries, and I don't really know how the offense is going to look without Puka Nacua. It didn't look great against a pretty bad Ravens defense, so I'd imagine against a much better Jaguars defense, we'll probably see some struggle out of the Rams, and that's kind of why I'm going to go with the Jags here. New Orleans Saints take on the Chicago Bears. Bears are favored by 5.5 with an over-under of 46.5. Saints coming off a 25-19 loss to the Patriots. Bears coming off a tight win over the Commanders, 25-24. So, yeah, the Saints are 1-5, coming off a loss. They seem to play okay football, but there's just something missing with the Saints to deliver, like, it's like one or two things on defense and one or two things on offense, and that team would be a really solid football team. You have to wonder if the Alvin Kamara trade's coming soon. And with the Bears, they seem to be finding their footing under Ben Johnson, a few straight wins now after a rough start. They were able to win against a pretty solid Commanders team that's usually very good. So I kind of like that. It seems like they're finding their footing. The Saints should be a team that they can hold to under 20 points. And they should be able to eventually score on them. The defense does kind of shore up throughout the game. But the Bears shouldn't take this game lightly, because if they do, the Saints will probably beat them. However, it's in Chicago, so big advantage there for the Bears. They should be able to kind of handle the mobile kind of running offense that the Saints have. So, I don't know. I kind of like the Bears to win that one, but it might be a lot closer than people think. Who gives a shit? Dolphins versus Browns. Loser fires their head coach, so both teams want to lose. Browns are 2.5 point favorites with an over-under of 40.5. Dolphins coming off a loss to the Chargers at the last second. Browns lost to the Steelers, we already talked about. Both teams are 1-5. Both teams want to fire their head coach. I'm going to guess that the Dolphins win this game, mostly out of like selfishness. I hope they just keep Mike McDaniel for as long as possible. So I hope they win this game, just so they don't fire McDaniel and the Dolphins fans are forced to suffer through more and more of this. Plus, I don't know, this game's a who cares. Like, I don't want to put much time into this. I'm just mainly joking around. I think the Dolphins edge it out late. I don't know. They might not even score against some Browns defense, really. Just a gut feeling on that one. The Raiders played the Chiefs in what could be a okay division game. Chiefs are 11.5 point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. Raiders coming off a loss. Chiefs coming off a win over the Lions, 30-17. Raiders won their game 20-10 over the Titans. I might have misspoke. I don't know. I mean, they're one game apart, so it's not like they've had kind of similar seasons, but the Chiefs are on like this upward trajectory. Things seem to be working out. They're getting Rashee Rice back, I think, this week. They should have a lot better offense. It's been moving and circulating and running a lot better. Though Detroit was out like most of their secondary in that game, so it's kind of like, yeah. You know, it's kind of a hard game to be like, yeah, they're back, but like they should be able to play against the Raiders defense that's been pretty easy to score on this year for most teams. The Raiders offense should struggle against the Chiefs, though the Raiders probably try to keep this close because they do play the Chiefs pretty well in Kansas City, but ultimately I don't see KC losing this game, and they'll be back over 500. Some more 1 o'clock games. We got like 3 more. The Eagles take on the Vikings in one of the games of the week. Eagles coming off an embarrassing 34-17 loss to the Giants. Vikings coming off a bye. Eagles are favored by 2.5 with an over-under of 43.5. I like the Eagles here. I don't think they're going to lose 2 in a row. I think after you get embarrassed like that by a team like the Giants, you come out swinging next week. You come out playing with your ass on fire. And that's typically how the Eagles have kind of played. They like lose a bad game, then they come out and dominate for a few weeks in a row. That's probably going to be the MO here. I'm not really a big fan of Carson Wentz. I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy. Not really a big fan of the Vikings overall. I feel like their last win that they got was like this really weird close game versus the Steelers where it was like, oh, okay. Or they beat somebody or lost to somebody in a game where it was just like, oh, that's an ugly game. And I feel like if you play like that versus an Eagles team that's really angry after getting blown out, you're running into a very hard team to play right now. So I'd imagine this is a very good game, though. I'd imagine the Vikings keep it super close because, again, they do have a good offense. I just, they've been playing okay defense this year. So I don't know. They should be able to kind of keep it pretty fun. But I think ultimately the Eagles, coming off that ugly loss, are going to be playing really focused. If the Eagles had beaten the Giants, the Vikings would probably win this game. The Carolina Panthers take on the LOL Jets. The Panthers are 1.5 point favorites, or 1.5 point favorites with an over-under of 42.5. Panthers upset the Cowboys 30-27, like we called, and the Jets lost 13-11 to the Broncos. I like the Panthers in this game. They're coming home from Europe, from London, so they don't have the week off here. The Panthers are they're coming off a big upset win. The Jets have played pretty awful offense all year. Their defense has been okay the last 2 games, but I think the Panthers have been able to kind of play pretty solid football the last couple weeks. I think they'll be able to score on the Jets defense. That can be kind of hit and miss. The Jets offensively probably won't do much against the Carolina defense. I don't know. Seems pretty straightforward. When will the Jets win? New England Patriots take on the Tennessee Titans. The first place New England Patriots take on the Tennessee Titans. The first place Patriots are 7-point favorites with an over-under of 41.5. Patriots 4-2 off a win versus the Saints. Titans 1-5 off a loss to the Raiders. I know that Titans will have like the new coach boost that comes for a team, like an interim coach bump that kind of bumps the team up and makes them play better the following week. But I wonder, does the new coach bump eliminate the Mike Vrabel revenge game for when they fired him for basically no reason, and then replaced him with garbage that's all been fired since he's been the coach? So we have a revenge game for Mike Vrabel here. The Patriots are going to really want to win this game. They're probably going to come into Tennessee with their asses on fire. They're very upset with the way that they won that game. They think they can play better. They want to improve. That's a game they would think that they should have won a lot more handily. So they're going to come out more focused, ready to play, ready for revenge, ready to beat ass against a team that they are significantly better roster-wise than. Against a team that's kind of refocusing and recalibrating after getting a new coach. Again, they have the new coach bump, which is the only reason this game might be close. But I do think the Patriots should win this game pretty handily. They should be able to shut down that offense. They should be able to kind of score on the defense that the Titans have. I don't know. Probably won't be much of a game. 4 o'clock games, we have 4 of them to go over. The New York Giants take on the Denver Broncos. Broncos are favored by 7 with an over-under of 40.5. Giants are 2-4 after an upset win over the Eagles. And the Broncos beat the Jets 4-2. Yeah, this game's pretty straightforward to me. I think the Giants, though fun, and they do play, like, they seem to have a fun little offense here. I think the Broncos are a real deal defense, and their defense is starting to get better and better each week. So I'd imagine a team with kind of a bad O-line and kind of a bad, like a young offense can kind of get shut down by a veteran-led defense of the Broncos that's very good at pass rush, very good at breaking the line, very good at secondary play. Can kind of confuse and kind of dominate a rookie quarterback. It's in Denver, so that's kind of always a challenge for a young team to adjust to. Yeah, Giants could keep it close, but ultimately I think the home field advantage, veteran defense, veteran secondary versus a rookie quarterback and a young running back, kind of the advantage goes to the Broncos. It'll be close. Another game of the week. There are a lot of good games this week. The Colts take on the Chargers. Chargers are 1.5-point favorites with an over-under of 48.5. The Colts are 5-1 after they escaped a win 31-27 versus the Cardinals, and the Chargers are 4-2 after they also escaped a win versus the Dolphins 28-27. This one to me is kind of a toss-up kind of game because it's like, all right, we're about to find out if the Colts are for real, and we're about to find out if the Chargers are for real, because if either one of these two teams win this game, it's like, all right, we can probably trust in the Chargers or the Colts now. Because we've seen the Chargers play in a lot of weird close games, lose to some teams they probably shouldn't have, kind of played bad versus a bad Miami team right now. So there's kind of these questions on like what the Chargers are, how consistent can they be? Are they just kind of like super streaky? Whereas the Colts have been pretty consistent about what they've done all year. They score a lot of points. They play pretty solid defense. We know what we're kind of getting out of them. And because of that, because the Colts feel a little bit more consistent than the Chargers do, like, for example, the Chargers started out 3-0, lost 2 in a row, then 1-1. Where it's like the Colts have just lost a game throughout the year, you know? So I kind of like the way the Colts have been far more consistent. They've played better football throughout the entirety of the year. I'm going to go with the Colts here. Chargers are just a little too shaky and inconsistent right now. Packers take on the Cardinals. This is easy. Packers are 6.5-point favorites with an over-under of 44.5. Packers 3-1-1 coming off a win versus the Bengals. We just talked about the Cardinals. They lost to the Colts 2-4. I don't know. If Kyler Murray doesn't play, this won't even be worth talking about. But if he does play, it's probably still not worth talking about. Cardinals don't really score a ton of points. They kind of struggle to get over 20. They kind of 27's like their maximum. Inconsistent offense. Defense isn't great. So, I don't know. Packers play pretty solid football. They play pretty good defense. Their offense, though a little bit meh, is slowly finding its bearings. Once they get Matthew Berry and everybody kind of on the same page, or Matthew Golden on the same page, they should be good to go. Things should be a little bit more solid, a little bit more consistent. But I don't know. We know the Packers can score. We know the Cardinals can play defense. Give me the Pack. The Cowboys take on the Commanders. Commanders are 2.5-point favorites with an over/under of 54.5. They're not expecting a lot of defense in this game. Commanders are 3-3 after a loss to the Bears, and the Cowboys are 2-3-1 after a loss to the Panthers. Gonna go with the Commanders here. I think their offense, though it's been kind of inconsistent, will find its footing against the Dallas team that really has been bad on defense this year. I think the Commanders will be able to run the ball, get that going, which will lead to the opening up of their passing game a little bit as far as like play action and getting timing down. Cowboys maybe will be able to score on the Commanders defense. Cowboys scoring has not been an issue whatsoever this year. So I'd imagine they'll be able to keep it close, kind of score a lot of points, score a ton of points really. But the problem is the Commanders will be able to do the same thing, kind of score at will on this Cowboys defense. And because of that, I'm kind of leaning on the Commanders to win, because it's like, all right, what defense do I trust to make a stop in this game? It would be the Commanders, because the Cowboys have proven that like the entire season they really can't do it unless they're up against a team with no offense. And even those teams score a ton of points on them. They just can't outscore the Cowboys. And the Commanders can outscore them, especially if the Panthers can. All right, Sunday Night Football, what we got? Decent game. The Atlanta Falcons take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are favored by 2.5 with an over/under of 47.5. Falcons coming off an upset win over the Bills, 24-14. They're 3-2. And this 49ers beat the lost to the Buccaneers, 30-19. They're 4-2. Normally I would never pick the Falcons, but the Falcons are a pretty solid, healthy team with a good run game. Pretty much everyone in their pass game's healthy, whereas like the 49ers defense just lost Fred Warner. They've lost a ton of other guys throughout the year. It feels like their defense is falling apart, and going up against an offense like Atlanta that can score points and kind of run the ball, keep the hands out of the other team's hand, keep the ball in their hands by running it, getting first downs, getting little chunk plays at a time, kind of the way they beat the Bills, running the ball, keeping the ball away from them, and then forcing Buffalo or the 49ers to have to make big plays to be able to stay in the game, kind of force that rushed offense, kind of force that like, hey, make bad decisions kind of offense that we've seen them do to the Bills. If they can play the 49ers like they did the Bills, they should be able to beat like the Mac Jones-led Bills or the Mac Jones-led 49ers that is very, very injury riddled. And of course, now that I'm picking the Falcons, they're going to blow this game in spectacular fashion. But I'm going to go with the Falcons here because I feel like if they can do that again, then we know that like, oh, okay, the 49ers or the Falcons are just a good team and the 49ers aren't overcoming the numerous injuries that they have. I think it's if the 49ers weren't injured, I think they'd destroy the Falcons, to be fair. But I'm going to have to go with this one here. That might be my upset pick of the weekend. 8 o'clock, there's a doubleheader in Monday Night Football. Tampa Bay takes on Detroit, probably game of the week. Lions are 5.5-point favorites with an over/under of 52.5. Buccaneers 5-1 off a win versus the 49ers. Lions 4-2 off a loss to the Chiefs. I really like the Lions off a loss, especially a loss where they're like mad about it, like they feel like they like kind of fucked that up and kind of got cheated. So I'd imagine that we're going to see like the Lions at a very heavy level playing some of their hardest football, playing some of their most focused football, especially against the Buccaneers, a team that's kind of had their GOAT, kind of played them really well, usually at the beginning of the season. Now they get the middle of the season where both teams are super warmed up. These are very even teams. These are two of the best teams in the NFC, probably the two best teams in the NFC overall, with the Eagles somewhere in there. But genuinely, like overall, I look at these two teams and I wonder if all of the injuries to Baker's wide receivers, how does that go up against the fact that the Lions have injuries in the secondary? You know what I mean? It's like these two offsetting principles where you're like, well, we'll see what happens. We have backup corners going against backup receivers, so that kind of offsets that. Detroit's been pretty good in the pass rush, pretty good at run game defense, so those parts are pretty well covered. And I feel like because Detroit's offense is actually warmed up and not playing in their third or fourth game when we usually run into Tampa, I wonder how Tampa's defense handles the Lions' ability to play offense when it's actually working and warmed up and everybody's good to go. Hopefully the Lions have their full health. Again, this game's really hard to call because both teams have a number of injuries that will impact the game, and we won't know who's playing until like Saturday or Sunday. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many guys that haven't been ruled in or out yet, so it's a little tough. But because they're at home, because I don't really like the injuries to the Bucs offense, and like the Lions have a very healthy offense right now, except for like an offensive lineman, or yeah, just an offensive lineman down. So you know what I mean? It's like, all right, well, those kind of things do factor in. The Bucs and the Lions do play the run really well. They do kind of get after the quarterback pretty well. Those two factors also really play into it. I think the Lions pulled this one off. Angry after a bad loss. Buccaneers keep escaping wins. You know, something's got to give here. We'll see. That should be the game of the week. Then we have the late game. The Houston Texans coming off a bye. They're 2-3. Take on the Seahawks, who are 4-2 off their win against the Jags. And the Seahawks are favored by 3.5 with an over-under of 40.5. I like the Seahawks here. I like them at home. Houston, though, they're coming off a bye. That's great. It would be better if they were home. I just got to see Houston play against like a competent football team and actually score points for me to be like, yeah, Houston's good and ready to go. Because again, they did kind of start looking good, but it was kind of against like bad teams and stuff like that, where it's just like, wow, you beat the Ravens. You know what I mean? Like right now, that doesn't mean anything. So you got to see it against like a good team that's competent and has everybody playing, and it's not just beating up on a team that's in hell right now. So I like the Seahawks in this one till I see different from the Houston. I'm not convinced their offense is all the way back. And that could be a problem against the Seahawks defense that can be kind of snippy and kind of tough to deal with. So that's my pick. And those are my picks for the week. Hopefully you enjoyed them. If not, you can tell me why down in the comments. You can also leave your picks down below in the comments if you think they're that much better. You can leave your record. You can leave your overall record. You can leave how you did that. You can leave whatever you want down in the comments. It's perfectly fine. But that's week 7 down the drain, in the dump, in tubes, and disposal, in the landfill, in the radioactive material, breaking it down to be dumped into the ocean and fed to the sharks, to make them stronger and walk on land and make picks for us. Yeah, that's the plan anyway. But that's our week 7 picks video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here and you haven't done so yet. Make sure you leave your picks like I mentioned. I really appreciate you watching. Hopefully you have a good rest of your day, night, morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening, late night, late evening, late morning, late afternoon. Whenever you give this a listen, I appreciate it. Hopefully you have a good one. And yeah, take it easy. Go Lions, go Tigers, and of course it's always go Patriots. First place New England Patriots. And long live the evil empire. That's true. We're back. Woo!